years. Joining us now is Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis of New York. She is the Assistant Whip for the House GOP Conference. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us on this very busy Friday morning. Do you think Johnson has the votes for a win?
I do. I believe that Speaker Johnson will receive the gavel today. I'm not 100% sure it'll be on the first round, but I don't think it will take that long. I think that there's been a lot of progress made over the last 24 hours to make everyone happy and united going into this. And I think at the end of the day, look, we need to just get this job done. American people are waiting for us to get to work. They want workhorses, not show horses. So we need to do this in the least dramatic, least painful way possible and just get to work for the American people to make sure we do the job of securing our border, ramping up domestic energy production, getting our economy back on track, and extending those tax cuts that President Trump used to stimulate the economy and lift Americans out of poverty, as well as drive down unemployment to record lows.
So what progress has been made in the last 24 hours that you're referring to that gives you so much optimism right now?
Well, I've spoken to a couple of the holdouts over the last 24 hours, and it seems that Speaker Johnson is listening to their concerns. He's working to address those concerns, as he has others. Look, I spoke to Speaker Johnson last week about some of the concerns I had regarding a lack of communication, how we need more of a member-driven process, how we need to make sure rank-and-file members can get pieces of legislation to the floor to secure legislative wins for their constituencies back home. And so I think he's making some changes, and he's taking the feedback that he's receiving from members seriously, because he wants to improve the way this Congress works. And because we have a slim majority, you need to have that type of consensus and buy-in. So I believe that in an hour or so, you'll see us be united going into the chamber and focusing on the bigger picture, is that we need to get this country back on track. We need to focus on national security, on our economy, on being energy independent, and that really needs to be the overall picture here. We can't be focused on any petty differences, but let's work united to get the job done.
So I obtained this letter from a group of conservatives that's floating among the holdouts remaining, and it details the performance of the House under Speaker Johnson in their view. The document lists 26 instances where it says the House Republicans failed and only 4 instances of successes. And here's part of what it says. I want to read it. It says, since November 5th, Republicans added over $300 billion in additional spending to the deficit and hastened Social Security insolvency by at least 6 months. Passed 5 separate continuing resolutions, each with more Democrat votes and Republican votes. Passed an additional $61 billion for Ukraine with 0 border security policies. So what do you say to that?
Well, look, I share some of those concerns, but what this group fails to recognize is that we had a Democrat president and a Democrat Senate. We controlled 1/3 of the federal government with a very slim majority, the slimmest in history. And so, of course, we have to negotiate with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And I think that is the real main issue here, is that it's an all or nothing. It is my way or the highway with a certain group of individuals within our conference. At government, business, relationships, there's a give and take. It's about negotiating and getting the best possible outcome. And quite frankly, if Republicans stuck together more and were more united, we wouldn't have to go to the Democrats to get votes for certain things, but because they always want everything and don't even want to negotiate sometimes within the Republicans, with the Republicans in our own conference, we have no choice but to work with Democrats to avoid a debt default, to avoid a shutdown of our government, things that would be detrimental and critical. So I would say the more united we are today and moving forward, we can really make a big difference, but understand that we still will need to work with the Democrats, because we only have 53 votes in the Senate. For most pieces of legislation, you will need 60 outside of the reconciliation budgeting process. And so you're still going to have a give and a take and a negotiation. That's just the reality. And the sooner they accept that and recognize that, the better off we will be. We will always do what's in the best interest of our constituents. And yes, getting our debt under control should be first among that. But we need to do it in a responsible manner. And really, let's just work within our conference as best as possible and try to address these issues that they raise, which are significant.
And you had said earlier in this conversation that you'd spoken to a couple of the holdouts and it's given you some of this optimism. Who have you spoken to specifically, and are they now saying that they will vote for Johnson?
Well, I don't want to mention the names of my private conversations, but I will say I've spoken with two of the members who are among the list that's being floated around. It seems that they want to reach an agreement here. They want to have a better understanding that we're going to take our debt seriously. And I understand that. We are now it's 120% debt to GDP ratio. You know, when I was born, it was about 35%. So it is a serious problem. We need to get it under control. But we also need to recognize that we need to come to that agreement of what that number will be and how we're going to get there collectively as a group, or else you start upsetting other factions within the party. So it can't just be a group of 10 people that are dictating what's happening here without a consensus from everyone else. And that is what teamwork really, at the end of the day, is all about. So what I would say is let's try to do what we can today to make this happen on the first ballot, because the American people have real issues that need to be addressed, and particularly getting this economy and our national security back on track, securing this border, ending the mass illegal migration you've seen in cities of mine like New York, where criminal gangs have wreaked havoc. It needs to be done, and we can't get there if we don't have a speaker.
All right, Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, thank you for your time. We'll see how it plays out later today.
Thank you.